Hey everyone, before we dive into this story, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more gripping tales like this one. The air was thick with tension at our monthly family dinner. I sat, fore covering, watching the pulse in his temple pound as he unleashed his rant. My name's Sophia, and at 32, I was on the verge of proving my father correct, but not in the way he imagined. It all began innocently enough. Aunt Margaret had been raving about my recent efforts aiding rural communities, work my father always scoffed at as pointless charity. When she beamed with pride, saying an Anderson was finally doing something worthwhile, he snapped. Worthwhile, he sneered, his face flushing. The Andersons forged this town through commerce and power, not by coddling leeches. My mother fidgeted with her pearls, a nervous tick honed over 3 decades of taming my father's outbursts. My younger brother, James, kept his eyes glued to his plate, his wife's hand tightening around his beneath the table. I gently placed my fork down, years of self-control keeping me steady. Is that truly what you believe, Dad? I asked. You've always been an outlier, he spat, arms flailing. Always defying our principles, our legacy. Your brother gets what it means to be an Anderson. But you're just, he faltered, hunting for words to cut deep. You're just not fit to carry this name. The room went still, as if holding its breath. In another family, this might have sparked tears or a stormy exit. But I'd been preparing for this moment for 6 months, ever since I uncovered the truth in Grandmother Eleanor's diary. Smiling, I reached for my bag. You're absolutely right, Dad. My calm threw him off, the familiar flush in his face wavering. I'm not fit to carry the Anderson name, I continued, pulling out a sealed envelope, because I'm not an Anderson. The silence deepened. My mother's face drained of color, her fingers frozen on her pearls. What are you saying? My father demanded, a new edge of doubt in his voice. I opened the envelope with deliberate care. Last spring, when Grandmother Eleanor passed and I helped clear her attic, I found her diaries. And Dad, they revealed quite a story about the summer of 1990. My mother's water glass slipped, splashing across the fine tablecloth. No one moved to clean it. That's enough, my father barked, standing so fast his chair tipped over. I won't hear this nonsense. The DNA results in here say otherwise, I replied, voice unwavering. Care to explain Thomas Bennett, or should I? The name struck him like a blow, his hand gripping the table for support. My mother's face turned ghostly. Who's Thomas Bennett? James asked, glancing between our parents, bewildered. Mom's first love, I said, locking eyes with her wide stare. The man she was still seeing 3 months into her marriage to Dad. The man who, per Grandmother Eleanor's diary, is my real father. Chaos erupted. Aunt Margaret gasped theatrically. Uncle Peter started muttering scriptures about sin and salvation, and James sat stunned, grappling with the shattering of our family's flawless image. But I wasn't finished. I slid the envelope across the table toward my father. So, Dad, when you say I don't deserve the Anderson name, you're right. I never had it to begin with. The grandfather clock ticked loudly, each second amplifying the stunned silence. My father stood rigid, staring at the envelope like it might ignite. It sat there, a stark white rectangle that had just cracked our family's polished veneer. His hands shook as he finally grabbed it, fumbling with the seal. This can't be true, he muttered, pulling out the papers. You're lying. You've always stirred trouble, always tried to ruin our reputation. I watched him scan the DNA results, his face growing ashen with each word. The test was undeniable. No genetic tie to the Anderson line, but a 99.9% match to Thomas Bennett's family. Where did you get this? He demanded, voice hoarse. After reading Grandmother's diary, I connected with Thomas's daughter, my half-sister, online. She agreed to a DNA test. We looked strikingly similar. Aunt Margaret, never one to stay silent in family drama, leaned forward. Eleanor knew all this time. I pulled out the worn diary. She knew everything. She urged Mom to come clean, but I glanced at my mother, rigid in her seat. Some choose comforting lies over hard truths. Sarah, my father said, turning to my mother, his voice low and dangerous. Is this true? For the first time, I saw my mother meet his gaze without flinching. Thomas was kind, she said softly. Gentle, empathetic, everything you weren't. James shoved back from the table. All those years preaching family loyalty, the Anderson name, and it was built on a lie. Your father gave me stability, my mother went on, ignoring James. The Andersons had prestige, respect. I did what I had to. What you had to. I echoed. You let me grow up feeling like an outsider in my own family. Every time Dad called me unworthy of being an Anderson, you stayed silent. You knew why I didn't fit their grand plans. Uncle Peter, out of Bible verses, cleared his throat. Maybe we should pray. Oh, hush, Peter, Aunt Margaret snapped. You can't pray this away. My father slammed his fist on the table, rattling the china. This stays in this room, he ordered, scanning the family. The Anderson name still matters in this town, and I won't let it be tarnished by what, Dad? I cut in, emphasizing the word. The truth? Your wife's affair? Or the fact you spent 32 years pretending to be something you're not? His face twisted with fury. You ungrateful. No, I interrupted, standing. You don't get to call me ungrateful. You don't get to call me anything. I'm not your daughter, remember? I'm not worthy of your precious name. Silence fell again as I gathered my things. James reached for my hand, but I gently pulled away. This wasn't his weight to carry. I've already spoken to Thomas, I said, pausing at the door. He's waited 32 years to meet his daughter. And it turns out I'm not the only one in the family devoted to helping others. He's a doctor who spent his life serving underserved communities. My mother let out a small, choked sound. So you were right, I said, looking at my father. I'm not an Anderson. I never was. And for the first time, I'm grateful for that. The grandfather clock chimed 7 times, signaling the end of another meticulously planned Anderson dinner. But this time, there were no polite farewells, no plans for next month. The truth had finally shattered decades of carefully curated appearances. As I walked to my car, muffled shouts echoed from the house. My father's once commanding voice now sounded small, desperate. I dialed a number I'd memorized, but never called. Hello, a warm voice answered. Thomas, it's Sophia. I told them everything. A pause, then, are you okay? I glanced back at the house where I'd always felt out of place. Yes, I said, surprised by my own certainty. I think I finally am. 6 months later, I stood outside a cozy cafe in Portland, Oregon, heart pounding. Through the window, I saw Thomas Bennett, my true father, at a corner table. He matched his photos, tall, with kind eyes and silver-streaked dark hair like mine. The fallout from my revelation had been predictable. My father, Robert Anderson, tried to bury the truth with money, threatening to disown anyone who spoke of it. But the Anderson facade was already irreparably fractured. James called the next day. I always wondered why Dad was tougher on you, he said. Why nothing you did was ever enough. I should have stood up for you. It wasn't your fight, I replied. You didn't know. He paused. You're still my sister, Sophia. DNA doesn't change that. His words outshone any Anderson legacy. My mother left voicemails, offering excuses. You have to understand, I was young, stuck in a loveless marriage. Thomas saw me as more than an Anderson wife. I didn't reply. Understanding didn't erase 32 years of her silence. Taking a deep breath, I entered the cafe. Thomas looked up, his face breaking into a warm smile that mirrored mine. We have the same dimples, he said. Sophia. He stood, hesitating, then opened his arms. I stepped into his embrace, feeling like I'd finally found home. I'm sorry, he whispered, voice heavy. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. Your grandmother, Eleanor, told me Sarah chose Robert, that staying away was best for everyone. We sat, both struggling to contain years of emotions. I followed your work, he said, showing me a folder. Every article about your humanitarian efforts, every mention of your community programs, I kept them. Tears blurred my vision as I flipped through the clippings. All those years, I thought no one valued my choices, but someone had been quietly rooting for me. Your sister, Emma, wants to meet you, Thomas added. She's a social worker in Seattle. When you're ready. I smiled through tears. I'd like that. Our talk flowed effortlessly, bridging 32 years of missed moments. I learned his kindness and dedication to others were Bennett family traits, not just mine. The Andersons chase power and status, Thomas said carefully. But real worth lies in how you impact lives, Sophia. My phone buzzed with a text from Robert Anderson. The family name will be ruined if this gets out. Name your price to stay quiet. I showed Thomas, who shook his head, still trying to control the story. He doesn't get it, I said, deleting the message. You can't buy truth or family. Thomas squeezed my hand. No, but you can build it, nurture it, choose it. Later, in my hotel room, I looked at old photos with fresh eyes. I sent one to James, us as kids, making faces at an Anderson event. Still siblings by choice, I wrote. Then I opened my laptop and typed, Dear Mr. Anderson, you were right. I'm not worthy of your name. I'm worthy of more, of truth, love, and a family that values character over image. I'm worthy of the Bennett name. I sent it without a second thought. For the first time, I felt whole, seen, accepted, not for a name or status, but for who I truly am. My phone glowed with a text from Emma. Family dinner at Dad's next Sunday. Your seat's ready. I smiled, the final pieces of my life clicking into place. Robert Anderson was right. I didn't deserve his name. I deserved my truth, my path, my family. After 32 years, I'd found it. Sometimes, the families we choose are truer than those we're born into. Sometimes the truth, however late, frees us in ways we never imagined. And sometimes, proving someone right about who you're not reveals who you truly are.